we always know that there's always something to discuss as a team, that how we can improve on what we do in our venue to make the day after better. And that goes for, I think, all humans in this sustainable topic. We all have a role to play in the planet, and we can all do better things every single day.
This week on Dirty Linen, we are talking sustainability, the environment, climate change, issues that are inextricably wrapped up in the supply chain and the food world. We're talking to somebody who's made it a project to deal with these big, knotty, thorny issues. Matt Whiley is one of the people behind Rebar and Never Wasted. Matt, welcome to Dirty Linen.
Thank you so much for having me on.
It's amazing to have you on. I feel sometimes like food waste and all the issues, all the ways in which the hospitality industry feeds into climate change are so big, so overwhelming, and really hard to tackle. I'd love you to tell us how you've been so brave. What's motivated you?
I think it kind of stems from sort of years of working in hospitality and working in bars, mainly bars, but some kitchens. And in a bar environment, when you're making your own, wines, syrups, shrubs, you're generally putting stuff in a blender or juicing it, and you don't need it to be in its perfect form. So throughout probably the last 5 to 7 years, we've always kind of bought class 2 produce. I think in Australia it's called B grade, and it just made sense. Like we were already doing it. We were already buying stuff that the supplier wanted to get rid of at a really cheap price because it was not deemed perfect for like a supermarket or a chef. Like I know I've seen it. Produce arrives into a kitchen. The chef sends it back because it doesn't look right. Because it's not going to look right on a plate because of what the consumer deems as perfect when it arrives on their plate. So that it gives the bar industry an opportunity to get produce that is probably overripe, which probably tastes better than it would if it was underripe. It doesn't quite look the same, but you get produce that's cheaper, and you're just going to blend it up anyway. So it was when I stopped doing the Scout pop-up, there was an opportunity to look at the space where Ree is now, and it was this incredible sort of heritage railway building, the locomotive workshops, and it was, we're already looking at how we could turn this old heritage building into something like new and exciting, and it kind of made sense to do it with the whole premise of what we were going to do anyway.
Well, so imagine people know nothing about Ree or about Scout. Tell us what it's all about.
Scout opened in London in 2017. I closed it during lockdown because I was unable to go home. But it opened in 2017, and the idea is that because humans there's so much food waste, but it's because of overconsumption. There's not actually enough food for the world, even though we throw billions of dollars down the drain every single year. And it was like, what happens? Like, if you go into a supermarket in the UK, there's always like tropical fruit, mangoes, bananas, pineapples, and they just come from all over the world. And they don't taste very good because they're not in season. They've traveled on a flight for 24 hours, and they've probably been on a truck before they got on the plane. And it was like, why we've got this incessant need to have stuff instantly. But what would happen if that stopped, and especially in the British Isles? Like, what would we eat if we only had to live off the British Isles? So we opened Scout, and the premise was scouting for produce. So it was either we got it from the British Isles or we foraged it in the local area. And it was probably we got really excited in our first summer, and we used all of the amazing berries that are in the UK, and then we got to winter, and there was like, well, we've not thought this through because we've used all the great stuff, and now we're in this barren season, and all that's available to us is parsnips and potatoes. And so it was a big learning curve in our first winter, and then we grew into what we were doing. But it was a time when we bought some sea buckthorn juice, and because there was no limes and lemons available to us, we were looking at ways that we could provide our guests with an experience that they would normally get in any other bars. So like getting a whiskey sour, for instance, was something we couldn't make. So we started buying sea buckthorn juice, which is like really sour, it tastes a little bit like orange. And we were buying it in juiced form from the north of Scotland.
So then when we tracked where it had been, it took about 5 days for it to get there. They sent it through Royal Mail. And then we kind of looked, northern Scotland is like quite far away from the southeast of the UK where London is. And northern France was a lot closer. So like, why, if we're getting stuff from Scotland, then we're discounting France? Like that's doesn't really fit with what we're doing. So we kind of looked at the radius of where France started, and then we narrowed our kind of search for produce, and we made it super hyper local in terms of where we're getting our produce from. And we started using a forager called John the Poacher. He was a really interesting guy, and he would bring us every Wednesday and Friday stuff that he'd find out in the marshes, in the forests just outside London. And then we kind of pretty much only used the things that John could find us. And then it was kind of a natural progression. Then after Scout, pop up here, and then doing Ree, it's the same thing really. It's not foraging, but it's seasonal produce that someone else deems as not perfect, surplus, a byproduct, or something that is being thrown away and going to landfill. And that's the whole premise of Ree. Ree is, as a guest, other than probably a martini glass and your cutlery, everything you would touch is either recycled or a byproduct, or it's been saved from landfill. That's the seat you sit on, the table you touch, the banquette leather seats, the floor you walk on, the plates that come from mud, most of the glassware, literally everything. The rubber stairs up to the bathroom, pretty much everything is recycled.
And give us an example of the kinds of things that are on the menu. Like, what could I have if I walk in?
So at the moment, we've got blue plums that have been rescued from Harris Farm. We get strawberry tops from Messina Gelato. We get spent beer grains from a local brewery. We've got there's a Lamington shop in Newtown, and we get their offcuts of their Lamington. And then we repurpose them, and then the chef we're buying protein from suppliers. Generally, butchers are pretty good at using a lot of the animal. So what we've done to be more sustainable with our protein is we just bought half a pig, and then the butcher is cutting it up, and so we're using every single part of it. So when we run out of the neck, then we'll move to the short ribs, and then until we've done all the pig, and then we're looking at doing that with a cow as well.
So, I mean, I love these ingredients, but I want to know what you're doing with them. Like, is there strawberry tops and Lamington offcuts? Like, where do they end up?
Lamington offcuts are we've added that to a spirit, and then we've distilled it in our little distillation machine, and then we've added raspberry to brandy to make a raspberry brandy, and then we've got a coconut sorbet from a local gelato shop, and then we're actually blending that into like a frozen drink, so it's like a Lamington frozen drink. The strawberry tops, there's actually so much of the strawberry still on the tops, so we just rest that in water and make like strawberry water, and we serve that with fig leaf gin and a rhubarb aperitif called Ruby, that is actually a product of our manager Evans, one of his products. The Harris Farm drink, we juice the plums and make the plums super clean, and then we make a flavored spirit with like Asian sort of aromatics, and then we serve that with we fat wash that with coconut oil, so it's like almost like a Thai broth, plum Thai broth sort of highball. It was fizzy.
Wow, that all sounds amazing. Do you feel, I mean, tell me about the satisfaction that's involved with creating these kinds of products?
For us, it's like super rewarding to be able to take something that someone's going to put in the bin and to utilize it, and in a way that the place that's given you would never have thought of how to use it, but also to create relationships within the industry. You know, I've seen it now. We've had new staff come and they come in and they go, oh, I went to this place and they've got this offcut, and it's like the reward of finding something that someone's willing to share with you, and then sharing it with your guests is a really good feeling.
I mean, where do you think the balance lies between awareness, like you're obviously showcasing the fact that there is this waste and the fact that it can be used in different ways, and problem solving? Because the problem is enormous. If you think about, you know, a third of food that's produced is wasted. You know, I remember shocking stories like, you know, the cream cheese where the packaging was, you know, somehow flawed, was being buried in a hill, you know, by the ton. Like, the problem is enormous, and you're a very creative, like very forward thinking little bar. Like, do you feel like you're problem solving or showcasing?
At the moment, we're definitely showcasing. We're one of a very small group of hospitality individuals that are kind of highlighting a problem, but also showing how to solve it. But if it's raining, our capacity is 46. If it's sunny, our capacity is 86, and we're very small. So to say that we're making change would be a lie, but we are making change in a way that we're trying to bring venues together to see how one city like Sydney can then filter into Melbourne. How can it filter into Brisbane? How can we filter into all other little towns and cities all over Australia? And then how does Australia take that to the world? I think Australia's fortunate that we've got a lot of land, and you're so close to your grower, and it's a little bit easier to make connections, and people are very open to trying to tackle it. It's just starting the conversation. We've been to the market, and we've chatted to the guys who are in the market who grow stuff, and we're like, can we take your waste, the stuff you're throwing? And they're like, why? And then you kind of educate them as to why we want to do it, and then they're like, there is someone who cares as much as we do, and but until someone's told them that that's a thing and it can be available, it's not even a conversation.
So you do see that penny dropping for people that you have those chats with?
100%. But then it's trying to find the balance of how the grower or the farmer can be remunerated for something that is cheaper for him to put in the bin. You know, he's got to pick it first and then get it to a market for us to buy at a nominal cost, when it's as a business owner and someone who's trying to make money like a farmer with such small margins. How do we bridge that gap? Because it can't just be me getting produce for next to nothing and me benefiting from it. It has to be everyone benefits in the circle of how this works, because then that creates the change.
Yeah, it's so true. I was hearing on the news this morning, you know, there's now a minimum wage for people who are picking fruit. So it's like $25 an hour instead of, you know, $7 a bin or a tub or whatever it is. And that seems great. Then there's also pressure being put on the supermarkets to audit their supply chains and make sure they're only purchasing from people who are abiding by that new rule. But then you just think, well, audit your supply chain, sure, but do you need to look at how much you're paying this farmer to make it feasible for them to pay the workers better?
Yeah, this has been a really big thing in the last sort of 6 months, is like how much pickers are getting paid, and how, because now a picker gets, the farmer who goes to me is like, now that you're not getting paid by the bucket, you're getting paid by the hour. So now they're not as productive, they're getting paid more money, and they're eating our fruit, because it doesn't matter how much they bring back. And there's definitely been a kickback from the farm, and and you kind of have to go like treat them really well, pay them what they deserve, and they will work harder for you. That's rather than seeing it as a negative, see it as a positive. Like everyone grows together. We have to grow together as an industry. Everyone needs to be equal to make this work. And when it's not equal, it breaks down.
Yeah, it's almost like there needs to be a premium put on that kind of produce that's perhaps imperfect, because there are all these other benefits, that are less tangible in the moment, like that it's not going to landfill and, creating dangerous gases for the climate. It's just so many of these costs we're just so used to kicking them down the road. It's like every step of the supply chain needs to be more accountable, doesn't it?
Yeah. So one of the things that we're looking at that we'd like to do in the future, and obviously it's not something that's going to happen in the near future, it's going to take a lot of time and effort and planning, is we would like to start a marketplace for waste where you work with the market that's already exists to then communicate with growers to take all food waste, all fruit and vegetables that would normally go in the bin, because I think 40% of all produce never leaves the farm. So we would take all of that produce and you would quantify what produce has been given, and then you would log into our website or our website, and you would, as the industry, you would be able to order food waste or produce that is technically imperfect but actually perfect, and then we would deliver it at a service charge, but you wouldn't actually pay for the produce, and the service charge would go into a pot, and then you would be divvied up based on how much produce you'd given to the market. So the grower would give it all away to us, and then they would get their portion back based on what they've given us based from the service charge. And this is something we're planning, but there's a lot of hurdles we need to overcome first.
Tell us about Never Wasted, Matt.
Never Wasted was actually supposed to launch last year, but we went into lockdown. Never Wasted the idea is that we bring hospitality venues together for everyone to share waste. And at the moment, we're still working on the tech back end of how it works, but we're doing it in the bar to test how it works and how we can improve it when we launch it properly. Because we've definitely seen things that work and what don't work, and how quick you have to react when it's available, and if you don't react, then kind of relationships break down because people are trying to give you something, and then it happens late, you're physically not able to go and do it, and then all of a sudden they don't want to give you your waste anymore because you didn't react fast enough.
Right. So is that, for example, someone's got like 6 extra fish that they had as a special and they're not using? Is it that sort of?
Yeah, there's someone going, hey, we've got all these offcuts. Can you come and pick them up now? And it's 3:00 on a Thursday, and it's like, I can come tomorrow. And they're like, no, we're going to put them in the bin. So we're trying to figure out a way that it works better. But at the minute, we're in a good place now for our menu with 10 drinks. But we're going to start. We've got over 100 venues that want to be a part of what we're doing. But we're working on the tech back end to where people, when you would add your produce into our back end, and then it works on a geotag. So if for instance in Everley, if I went in and we had surplus of something like apples, we would put those apples into the back end, and it would then geotag everyone within a kilometre of Ree, and then you would have 48 hours to collect it. And then it sends an email out to those bars going, hey, there's some apples, they're for free. And then, so we're looking at how we can get that to work in a really seamless way, because there's bars up every single street every single venue wastes food, every single one, whether they're willing to accept it or not. And there are ways to minimize that with composting and like get out clauses like composting and things like that. But everyone wastes some kind of produce, and it's a way that we can communicate and bring our industry a lot closer together by just communicating like, we've got this produce and you can do it in a way that you're not shouting about it, and it can be quiet in the background, it can be upfront, so people talk about it. It's how a venue wants to be recognised within the Never Wasted platform, because some people are a bit shy to admit that they waste things, and I think as this gets bigger and grows and you become more confident of sharing your waste, and you realise that it's not a problem, it's not an issue for you to waste stuff. If someone can take it, it's actually a really good thing that you communicate and someone takes it and it doesn't go in landfill, and we're looking after the environment.
Are there any products that seem particularly problematic to you, like something that, I don't know, it's hard to use all the bits of it, or it seems to always end up in the compost or the bin?
Probably the really, really, really outside part of watermelon, the really fine green bit. We use pretty much all of it down to that last green bit. That goes in compost. We generally save it and try and figure out a way to use stuff, and that might be us keeping hold of a big portion of it and researching ways that we can make it taste good. Inevitably, things do go in compost because of the input to output ratio. And if we had an excess of space in big fridges, we could probably keep everything and use it. But it's definitely been a learning curve, and it's something that we're always getting better at. And it starts by bringing less produce into your venue, so your input output is more even.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can definitely relate to that in the home kitchen, where obviously, yeah, the more you've got, the more you're going to waste. The less you've got, the more resourceful you have to be. And yeah, coming to the end of 7 days ISO, I'm like, it's actually really good, because you've got to, just look to the bottom of the drawers and see what's there to make the next meal. It's good to live a little bit leaner.
Yeah, and now probably for the first 6 to 8 months of us being open, our fridges are always full. And now I know that one of our storage fridges is pretty much empty, and one of the service fridges upstairs is nearly empty. So we're pretty good at bringing the things in that we need and storing them and using them in a fast and efficient way. And I think that's half the battle, is the overconsumption as humans, that we just overconsume, so we order too much and then we end up putting it in the bin. And if you just a bit more resourceful and think about what you're ordering and just order what you need, it's actually going to be much more beneficial for, one, how much money you're spending, but also better for the environment.
Yeah, well, I mean, hospitality seems so implicated in this, because there is this feeling that you have to be generous. You want to be generous. It's all about generosity. Things should feel bountiful. You don't want people to leave hungry. Do you feel like is there some new way that we have to look at generosity, or feeding people, looking after people? Probably the biggest thing that we do on our Place of Food is analyse all food when it comes back to the bar when people have finished eating. We always analyse portion size, and it's trying to find the right balance between what is cost effective, what is the right price that people want to pay for a start, and then figuring out what your margin is so you can be a business and make money. But also, if the portion size is too big and it constantly comes back and there's always waste, you know that you're serving too much food, and then you don't have to order as much because you can put less on the plate, charge a little less. I know there was an EPA worked with the Hilton in Sydney, and they analysed all of their bins for a whole year, and that was, doing the same thing, analysing everything that went in the bin. Why did that one slice of pizza get coming in the bin? Because it was too big, people didn't eat it, so then they reduced the size, and then because they reduced the size, they didn't need to order as much flour to make dough or the toppings, and that kind of filtered down and snowballed to all aspects of the hotel, and they ended up saving $800,000 in food costs in 1 year. And when you start
talking figures like that, that's people start to respond to saving money, especially in the current world where food costs and energy bills are all going up. This is massive for everyone.
Yeah, that's really telling. I remember seeing it at a food expo a couple of years ago. There was like some smart bin that actually photographed everything that was scraped off plates in a kitchen and analysed it, and they came up. It was incredibly powerful. I think it was like really big in the Netherlands, and they had some countrywide reduction in waste that was really dramatic. So I guess, yeah, it's open to any business doing that on, whatever scale they happen to be at. But definitely when people are always thinking about costs and I suppose, when prices of produce are going up in lots of cases, like, well, how do you find savings that aren't necessarily about reducing the quality of a product? It's really, really powerful information, Matt.
Yeah, it's something that we have notebooks. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 5 bins on the bar. One's for paper, for recycling. One's for compost. One's for glass. One is for general waste, and one's for our linen. And we record everything that goes in the general and the compost. When you start holding yourself accountable, you start to understand, like, you start to question when you're putting it in the bin, because you know that you've got to hold yourself accountable, write in the sheet and give a reason why you're wasting it, and put a reason like next to it what you could do next time. And that might be not ordering that amount of produce, or you could have figured out a recipe to use it. And pretty much the only thing that goes in the general waste is plastic, and we're really close to a solution so we can have that all recycled. It's pretty much the only thing we actually put in landfill is punnets of fruit that are plastic, that are kind of hard, and then soft plastics like plastic bags, when you can only say to your supplier that you want the produce to come in loose and no plastic. But someone comes in for a new shift, they don't see your notes, and then you've got 5 plastic bags. But there's a new local company, and they're coming to see us next week to figure out a solution for that.
Because I guess the best solution would be that it doesn't come in the first place. But
100%. But how do you, as a singular bar, telling a strawberry picker to not send plastic, send it loose, is near on impossible to make change that way. It needs to be something that everyone asks for. Like when you go into your supermarket and there's like massive boxes of like tomatoes that you just you take yourself and you put them in your basket loose, and they weigh them, and you wash them when you get home. Everything can be like that. Yeah,
for sure. Well, it makes me think of my friend who goes to the farmer's market with almost like decants blueberries from a punnet lovingly, like almost into her apron, and then carries them home. And I just think it's such an individual solution, and it's great, but it has to be so much bigger than that. But what do you do except start where you are?
Exactly. You can only start where you are and do as much as you can, and hope that without preaching too much, it's more about this is what we do, and we hope that you follow. Because people don't like being preached to, they don't like being told what to do. And if you but you also don't want to be the place that, especially as a bar and restaurant, that's just as seen as educating, because bars and restaurants are about fun. They're about going out and having a good time and catching up with your friends and leaving happier than when you arrived. And that's the name of the game of hospitality. You go out, you have a great time, you want to go back because you had a great time, you spend money, and the cycle continues. We're very conscious of being an education platform. We also want to be a place that this is a haven for people to come and have fun at the same time. So we're very mindful of when we educate, how much information we give, and we generally don't offer it up until someone asks, especially in the venue.
Matt, is there anything else that you want to touch on in this chat?
I think we've pretty much covered it.
Well, that's good, because it's a pretty big topic. How do you feel about what you do?
It's a weird one because it feels good to do good things, but you also know that you're never ever going to succeed. That sounds really negative, but it's not. I mean it in the best possible sense of, even if you succeed, there's always something else to learn to be better every single day. That everything we do every single day, I know that we can improve on. So we always know that there's always something to discuss as a team, that how we can improve on what we do in our venue to make the day after better. And that goes for, I think, all humans in this sustainable topic. We all have a role to play in the planet, and we can all do better things every single day.
Beautiful. Couldn't think of a better note to leave it on. Thank you so much, Matt. It's been really inspiring to have a chat to you. Cannot wait to come and drink some seconds, plums, spritzers, or whatever it was when I head to Sydney soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
This is Dirty Linen, and I'm Dani Valent. We air the issues that the hospitality industry finds hard to talk about, hearing from different people with unique perspectives. We want to hear from you as well. If you have something that needs to be said about a topic, get in touch so we can include your perspective. Contact us at dirtylinenat deepintheweeds.com.au or hit us up on Insta at Dirty Linen Podcast. We can't wait to hear from you.